Hey, Earthlings! So, welcome along to number 6 of this video series, introducing a blog series that I did for VegFest Express in the run-up to London VegFest earlier this year. Now, we're up to Arthur Ling, and we start off with, this is a poem written to Arthur, and I was going to read it out or even sing it, and then I thought, well, that'll be a bad idea, so I just thought I'd put it on the screen so you can have a look. Let's go back to the 1970s first and think about my time. I went vegan in 1979, and this was before the vegan meats and the vegan cheeses and all the rest of it, but there was some Plamil by then, some plant milks, and so this is the story of that development and the people behind it, particularly Arthur Ling. So let's go even further back to 1926, no less, when Arthur Ling was 7 years old, and that's when he began his journey towards veganism, in the sense that he refused to eat flesh and eggs. And of course, in 1926, no one knew what vegan was. It was before the word was coined. So that was a remarkable beginning for a 7-year-old, and his career in veganism was remarkable throughout, as we're about to see. Now, fitting right in with the other vegan pioneers, Arthur Ling was said to be not one for social norms, a bit of an anti-establishment kind of figure. At the same time, he was very practical, and so I suppose we would call him an entrepreneur nowadays. So he set out to research the nutritional aspects of a plant diet, and obviously then moved on to the issue of plant milks. But before that, he was involved in a company called Soulflower, which was an early version of biodiesel. So again, very much ahead of his time. I think it was called Sun Oil at the time. So again, kind of a real kind of breakthrough thing in those days. It was 1965 when the first plant milks began to be distributed widely, but before that, in the 1940s, Arthur Ling was part of a team that got together within the Vegan Society in order to kind of look at the development of all this. And that included working with one of the other prominent pioneers that I've spoken about already, which was Leslie Cross. So you can look back in the series on the Leslie Cross thing. In relation to today's blog entry, of course, as ever, I will put the link down below. So we get into this research that they were all involved in, because obviously, again, I suppose from a 21st century point of view, when we're so used to having all these products flying around in every supermarket that you can mention, it was a very different world back then, and so there was a real kind of need to develop these products. So first, the Plant Milk Society was created, and then Plant Milk Limited, and now we have Plamil Foods Ltd as the kind of name which emerged from all of this. And interestingly, we see this now in the 21st century. The dairy industry threatened to sue them over this issue of calling plant milks milk. So in that sense, nothing much has changed. In fact, Arthur Ling described the law as an ass, and said that it did demonstrate the power of the dairy industry in terms of the Labelling Act and their ability to put pressure on the system in order to get their own way, which still obviously pertains today. Now, one thing we could say about the Vegan Society, and obviously the vegan social movement in general, was that it was quite chaotic at the beginning, including right up to the 1970s, when I mentioned in the Kathleen Janaway a blog and video that her address really was the headquarters of the vegan movement. So it was lucky in a way that Arthur Ling's expertise was in law, and he wanted to put the society on a much more stable footing, which he was able to do in various ways, including the idea of getting their own premises, which has been the case ever since. So that move and the development of the Vegan Society trademark is said to have put the society on a much more secure financial footing than ever before, and so therefore provided the kind of stability that Arthur Ling said was required. Plamil itself has developed rapidly and well since those early days, and now has a range of soy milks and also vegan chocolate bars, egg-free mayonnaise, and so forth. So in that sense, the foundation that Arthur Ling was able to provide for both the Vegan Society and Plamil Foods Ltd was very valuable and goes on until the day. They're also they were quite novel in some of the ideas that they came forward with. For example, at one point they produced these little mini pots of soy milk for airlines, which was a real kind of innovation in those days. Now, as for the man himself, as the poem that we saw at the beginning of this indicates, he was a very kind of helpful person in terms of helping new vegans. And in fact, this kind of attitude that he had led to the development of Vegan Buddies. Vegan Buddies was an initiative launched by Neil Lee, an old friend of mine who sadly is now dead, and also Mary Brady, his wife. Now, Mary became a vegan when she was pregnant, so she was a little bit worried about that and decided to contact Plamil Foods Ltd, and was very surprised to find that she was quickly on the phone to Arthur Ling himself, and he did a lot to reassure her about her new diet, as it were, and also would provide her with lots of literature which came through the post. And Mary said that she was also grateful, always grateful for this interaction, and said that they eventually kind of met in person, and the child running around, Seamus, was fit and healthy, just as Arthur predicted, and it did indeed lead to the idea of Vegan Buddies. Now, Vegan Buddies, I guess, is the forerunner to something like Challenge 22. So the idea, this was before the age of the internet, of course, but the idea was to put really a new vegan in contact with experienced vegans, so they could ask all the questions that they need, ask for advice, and maybe even meet up and go shopping, that kind of stuff. So that was done through something called ARC News, which Neil Lee ran in the 1990s. Arthur Ling died in 2005, and the London Vegan Festival of that year was dedicated to him, as well as the spring edition of the Vegan Society magazine, The Vegan. Also, the Arthur Ling Memorial Award was launched, and there's been a number of recipients of that, including these people: the registered dietitian Sandra Hood, Dan Lyons of the anti-vivisection group called Uncaged, which is Sheffield-based and has now transformed into the Centre for Animals and Social Justice. Patrick Smith, which many activists of my generation will remember from the Veggies catering campaign, who used to provide food at demonstrations, etc., all around the country. Tim Barford, the manager of Yoa, hemp-based company, and also VegFest UK. And award-winning chef Tony Bishop Weston. It's interesting to me doing this series because 21st century vegans really do have a lot to thank for the vegan pioneers of the movement, not least people like Arthur Ling, who really kind of put the Vegan Society in its stable state, from a kind of rickety start to threats of closure, etc. We needed something to be more permanent in that respect. This is from the movement point of view, this is before veganism was the moral baseline of the movement. It's very difficult for new vegans to understand this, but there was a lot of single issue stuff going around right up into the 1990s, I guess, and it was very rare for veganism to take center stage as it is today. So the Vegan Society, in my day, for example, the Vegan Society wasn't really seen as part of the movement. And yet groups like Compassion in World Farming, which is a traditional welfare group, was, so there was a kind of lot of mixed ideas, a lot of confusion in those days. With veganism now being so central as it is, all that has kind of more firmed up, I guess, in a way. But so we do have those pioneers to thank. You know, their work and perseverance and their ideas and their evolution of ideas are the things that we can build on, and hopefully their values are the ones that we can preserve. So thanks to Arthur Ling and to the other pioneers, and thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.